One big lump?
One big lump. I don't care for this, like, and another thing, and also, and here's the thing, and here's a kiss, and here's a PS, and here's a joke I just thought of. I put it all in one message. Also, emails, stop saying hope you're well. You don't care.
So how do you start an email?
Hi. Or, no, get rid of that. Straight in with a question. What are your thoughts about this? Or, can you answer this question? Or,
oh my god, you're so direct.
You've got to be, Suze. You've got to be, otherwise you're all day. Hope this fine. Hi, how are you? Stop asking that. No one cares.
No, don't you just do like I hope you had a nice weekend?
No, you don't.
Because you don't give a fuck about people's weekends?
No, I didn't have one, so why should they?
You did have a weekend.
I did, but I was working.
Oh, so no one else gets one?
No, no one else gets one. And if they did get one, I certainly don't want to know that they had a good one. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Hi, hope you're well.
No?
No, get rid of it. Absolutely. There.
Regards, Tom.
Regards. I didn't even put that a lot. Oh, yeah, I'm putting more like that. That's what. I used to think, oh gosh, older people are so abrupt, and now I'm like, no, time's running out. I haven't got much longer on this earth. Come on, I haven't got time for happy world.
I think you do, Tom. You're not even 40 yet.
I know, but I feel the sands of time. I feel them. You know?
Well, that's the sandpit that you put in your garden.
Well, that's the problem. I just spent a long time with it.
As you well know, I'm someone that sends like a couple of messages because I sort of do it as I'm thinking. I feel like I send that to you quite a lot.
No,
like, oh, also, but I'm allowed to do it because you love me, so it's fine.
It's different.
Anyone else, it's different. It's different with me.
It's different.
I'm getting through the podcast, and I hope to catch up someday.
Oh.
I'm a Brit abroad
Hello.
who teaches English and dabbles in translation. And I live in Madrid.
Oh, the dream, living in Spain. Oh.
There's Pride every year, and I wondered if you've ever been to...
Madrid.
Now, Ugoyo in Spain before. I've not been. If you ever come to Madrid, I'd be happy to show you around and help you with the old Espanol.
See, muy bien. I would love to have some ham there.
You can find somewhere for Tom to have one of his brandy coffee.
Oh, I'd love that. Spanish brandy. Got it.
I hope you're well and dashingly dressed and having lots of fun.
Well, thank you.
I'm currently in just knickers and a vest.
I'm actually in some swimming shorts and a t-shirt.
There you go. Looking forward to the next podcast. Sarah, yes, I'm that far behind that I tried the old email, so I listened to the last 2 episodes, the one about Tom's swim-away trunks in Tenerife and found the news now. PPS, love the new Jazzy theme tune. I now imagine you're based at a new jazz bar, wearing velvet smoking jackets whilst doing the podcast and sipping cocktails.
Absolutely correct.
That's what we're doing.
I wish I was somebody who could sip a cocktail.
Not just down it.
Not just down it.
Ah!
Yeah, like I'm in Magaluf or something.
Magaluf?
Magaluf. I just down it. I downed a vodka martini the other day simply. I could barely...
They're like petrol.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, they're so strong. Rose Johnson made me one, friend of the show. It was excellent, but God, I was absolutely shit-faced.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I had 2 of them.
Yeah, well, it's something, there's a rule about one's not enough, 2's just right, 3's too many, I think.
3, you've got a problem.
3, yeah.
I've never been to Madrid Pride. Alice goes. Alice went this year.
Oh, yeah.
She went,
yeah, did
she loves it? She loves it, but she loves that boom boom music, doesn't she?
Ah, boom, 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 I want you in my room.
Does it? She exclusively listens to Bengal.
Yes, she's absolutely.
Well, the Bengal bus is coming.
It is, isn't it? Can I make a request, Joel? Well, yeah, people love it there, don't they? More than in Barcelona, dare I put it to you.
I was once at Barcelona Pride by accident, and all I really remember seeing, it was such a long time ago, and it wasn't I was drunk, I just can't really remember it, was 3 drag queens dressed as Spice Girls.
Who did they leave out?
I don't think there was a Jerry, which is a surprise because it's such an easy one to do.
But she did leave first.
There you go, they might have been doing the holler era.
Yeah, it might be that lineup.
Well, we should go to more prides.
I would love that. I would love to do that, like, as I said before, I think, on the podcast, the dream of rich old gays to just, like, go on a world pride tour, you know? Just pride hopping. Sort of like rich old gays do it.
Yeah, I mean, surely a TV channel can organise that for us.
Oh, you'd think so. right?
I think so, come on. Pride hopping with Susie and Tom?
I don't think. But you can't, the trouble is, a lot of the time it is just getting drunk in the street, isn't it? So,
yeah, I'm not sure how much people want to watch that at home. We have to do something quite cultural as well.
Yeah.
Here we are in Athens.
Yeah, we've come to this traditional dancing group.
Susie's being violently sick.
Susie has to jump against the Acropolis again.
You know how I love doing stuff on Wonderland.
You do, you love it.
I love it, it's my thing. I don't know what I was going to say then. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's so hot in here, my God.
Oh my goodness. What about Mozzie bites? You getting a lot of those, Suze? Because I have.
Are you? That means you've got sweet blood.
Does it?
Yeah.
It's all that sugar and stuff I can see in my sperm. But
sweet blood.
bites that will not be scratched. Will not be scratched.
What do you mean?
Well, however much I scratch them, they're still itchy.
You've got to stop scratching them, babes.
Oh, I've used to.
You've got one of those pens that have got like...
Ooh, stuff in that stuff, yes.
Yeah, because they love Anne Ruffle and she swears by them.
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
Mum gets there.
I took off the cover of my remote control to use the sharp bit that holds it in. You know, this clip that holds it in.
Oh, Tom, that's really grim.
Yeah, and I was scratching it back. That's the only thing I could find that's sharp enough that wasn't a knife. That's how itchy it was getting.
Oh, that's so grim.
And
you can get the stuff in the chemist where you dab on it.
You know I don't believe in modern medicine. I won my arm yesterday, dude. It was like a real... I do believe in modern medicine, by the way. But a real welt on my arm. It's very unpleasant.
Oh. I was saying, do you want to hang out this week? But it sounds fine.
Sounds real good.
Yeah. Well, Tom, we're both still going out on tour in the spring.
Yes.
Details for Tom's at tomindeed.com.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
The details of my tour at susanruffle.com. I think it's fair to say both of us are adding dates if we're not coming to your town just yet.
Panic. They'll be added. Yeah, they're going to be added.
And Tom's book is now available for pre-order.
And Susie's doing a special one-off of her podcast out live at the Theatre. I said one-off, I'm sure there'll be others, but a special.
No, it's one-off, that's it, I'm doing it. That's it, and then it's done.
Not true. No, there's a thirst for them.
A thirst, indeed. Yeah, but we'll see you next week, won't we, Tom?
You betcha. Okay, all right, everybody,
bye
for now. Okay, bye. Hello and welcome to Like-Minded Friends, the podcast with me, Tom Allen,
and me, Susie Ruffle.
And this week we have a guest.
We do, it's very exciting, so we like having a guest.
We do like having a like-minded friend to join our Like-Minded Friends podcast.
We do, and this week we are joined by the brilliant DJ extraordinaire and friend of mine and all-round good girl, Joe Good.
Hooray! Welcome, Joe. Thanks so much for
over
coming.
there.
Nothing.
Oh,
wait, make it 3.
Oh, like the end of a very, very long race, it sounds like, with just maybe a couple of people left at the finish line.
Oh, like when people do the marathon and they're like dressed as like a submarine.
Yes, exactly like that.
Days, and you're like,
Joe, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. Like actual friend in my human life, Susie Ruffle, and indeed Tom and I have touched in the past.
Yeah.
Connected.
Usually through me.
Through you, I was going to say your birthday and things like that.
Oh, yeah, it's her birthday.
Well, you know. Now, Joe, of course you work in radio. And play a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought we'd talk this week about music, about queer music. We sort of gave the
queer music, or maybe music with an LGBT slant.
A slope.
A slope, and knowledge.
And of course we are also talking in the mourning period that the world has entered into following the death of David Bowie.
Indeed.
Were you a Bowie fan, Joe?
I think anybody who is a fan of music is a fan of David Bowie.
Oh, good.
Whether you realise it or not, which you may not.
Go on.
Well, you see, the thing is, and the reason for this incredible outpouring of grief, and a lot of people feel sort of out of control with the sadness inside of them, which is surprising them, you know, in its magnitude and its ferocity.
Absolutely.
Because he touched all of the parts of modern music. So, you know, every genre has something in its lineage that connects to David Bowie.
Oh.
So, in my particular case, for example, I didn't grow up listening to Bowie. There wasn't anyone in my house who was giving me Bowie records, but... Yes.
And that's such a big part of it as well, isn't it? Like someone give it's such a
passing down,
such a giving thing,
yeah.
isn't it?
And I've noticed something about that this week, which I'll come back to actually. It's really interesting. Sure. But for me, he came into my orbit when I got into electronic music and started clubbing.
Right.
Which was my personal epiphany, musically speaking.
Oh.
That's the music that moved me, that changed my perspective on life when I was around 16, 17 years old. So, you know, I got into clubbing in a huge, huge way. Mm-hmm. And queer clubbing also, obviously,
sure.
In Manchester.
Hooray.
The Paradise Factory, Respect.
Don't even know where that is.
Well, it's in...
Is it gone now?
Well, it is gone, but it is the building, or it was in the building of the original Factory Records. Which the building still stands, and it is still a club, but it's not a queer club anymore.
Oh, okay.
For everybody.
It's for everybody. Everybody can go. Just anybody.
Absolutely.
Any
I
old.
find clubbing in Manchester is very queer-friendly, regardless of where you're at.
I would agree. I mean, I've always enjoyed a night out in Manchester. Personally, I'm a big fan of Manchester.
Guys, we're going to make it on the record. Manchester, it's a good place.
Manchester is a good place.
I consider myself extremely lucky to have landed in Manchester, which I did quite by accident because I followed my first radio job to that city when I was 17, before I had come out.
Right. And it's such a queer city.
It's an extraordinary city in which to discover yourself.
Yeah, I bet.
And especially back then, this was the late 90s. So this was Canal Street at its real apex. You know?
Yeah, queer as folk.
And
we're doing it. We're really doing it.
Yeah.
Student lighting everywhere.
It's very different these days, but back then, and it doesn't need to be what it was back then. It doesn't need to be a ghetto anymore.
That's often the discussion, isn't it? Yes.
Anywhere, all of the time, especially in a place like Manchester, and that's wonderful. Yeah. But then, coming in from the country, as I was, like many, many, many other boys and girls, to land in the middle of that scene, gave me the confidence and the freedom of expression to be whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that a lot of like queer people, or anyone really, is taking from that's coming up now in sort of Bowie's death, is that thing of people being able to be anyone and be able to be an outsider.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing that seems to keep coming back about, you know, a lot of my friends that are queer, and many of them that aren't, you know, they're sort of tweeting or Facebook.
Other friends?
Only you and Joe. That's it.
But I mean, you have non-queer friends?
I've got a couple of straight friends. I mean, I don't mind it.
I just don't like those sorts. I don't like you hanging with those sorts.
I just don't mind if anything in front of me. I mean, like, just don't rub it in my face. You can do what you want behind closed doors, but don't do anything. But they, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, like Bowie and that sort of genre of music and how outlandish sort of costumes were, and I guess it sort of comes from the whole sort of glam rock thing. It's different to Joe. Bowie was sort of passed down to me from my mum because she was really into T-Rex and glam rock and all of that stuff.
This is the thing I was going to just reel back to. What I've discovered this week, and it's wonderful to think of your mum being one of those ladies, is that one of the many things about Bowie was that he was very much an artist that women related to. At a time, you know, when it was very macho to be a rock star and all of that stuff, his otherness and his femininity, and indeed his queer leanings and whatnot as time went on, made him so accessible to women across the board.
Yeah,
very ordinary women who didn't see themselves or conceive themselves as being in any way unusual, in any way interesting. They connected to him just as the obvious freaks and weirdos and all the wonderful degenerates did too.
Yeah.
A lot of people I've spoken to this week came to Bowie through their older sisters or their mums, or the women essentially in their house. And obviously he's idolised by men too, quite rightly, for 100 different reasons.
Yeah, of course.
But he does seem to have this particularly feminine core, which I think is wonderful.
Oh, that's very interesting. Would that be similar to someone like Boy George as well?
Yep.
Who I always think has that sort of... And as well, and I'm not just saying this because they're both from South London, actually. David Bowie's from Bromley, where I'm from. I mean, I'm not saying they're the same person. But someone, I'm sure, will. That sense of coming from quite boring places as well. And bizarrely, though, maybe like you're saying, Joe, is that often people who would be considered quite ordinary, quite normal people, had really related to Bowie, and latterly people like Boy George, or lots of other people who are outlandish in their performance style. That there is that sort of hunger for it, I think, deep down in our souls.
His otherness spoke to everybody at some point in some way. One of his incarnations, connected to everybody I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And and it just rolls on. I think maybe the reason that this loss feels so great is that even if we weren't all sitting at home listening to Bowie records, because there were sort of large periods of time in his career which was quite fallow, he wasn't sort of at the forefront of things, but we always knew he was there, and we always knew what he'd done in Berlin with Iggy, and with Ziggy, and on all sides of the queer spectrum, and in his performance, and in his attitude, and in his sort of just his gentlemanliness.
That's what's really come across, is that sort of kindliness. And I was reading an interview where he was saying how much he was just full of love. Sorry, Susie.
No, sorry, I was about to just agree with you. The lead singer of Placebo, whose name has escaped me.
Brian Mulcahy, who I've spoken to the other day.
Brian.
People like Brian would have really, really, really suffered until someone like David Bowie came into their...
And he said that they met Bowie when they were doing a festival together quite early in their career. And Bowie just watched their set and was really supportive. And so, and that's something that keeps coming out now. There was a great interview that people have been posting on Facebook. It's gone a bit viral again, where Bowie is talking to an exec at MTV saying, "Why aren't you playing more music by black minorities, by black acts?" And it just seems, and I think that's the thing as well, for the gay community as well. So he came out as gay, and then he came out as bisexual, and then he came out as heterosexual, which is sort of for me, it's the opposite way that he went.
Go round the roundabout, Dave. See what turning you like.
But he came out in '72, which was the same year as the first ever Gay Pride March, and that's before Freddie Mercury came out. That's before Elton John was out. That's before Boy George was out. Yeah. And he was.
They were what, a decade later?
Yeah,
longer.
Like the '80s. Yeah, exactly. And so, I can't even God. It was hard enough realizing that I was gay in Portsmouth in sort of the early 2000s. But imagine being gay in the early '70s. And then having someone on TV being like, "Yeah, I'm like you," it's the first time.
And I'm successful.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm innovative, and I'm interested and interesting. And people
want me, and they love me, and they care for me, and I've got this huge.
And then he would always turn it around and say, "And you, be this too, whatever it is you want to be." Because remember, Bowie tried on lots of different things. All the time in the process of finding the one that landed. So of the incarnations that we know well, for example, Ziggy, for every one of those, there's a few other things that he tried early on that just a lot of people love the laughing gnome. But there are a handful at least of other things that he did try before that didn't work out quite so well, because he's an artist in the true sense of an artist. So whatever your medium is, if you're an artist, you are like you guys are with what you do. You are compelled to create, to write, to share, perform, to put your stuff out there. He had to just keep putting it out. And it's that wonderful message of otherness whereby somebody is standing up there saying, "Look at all the things that you can do. Just do them."
Yeah. And actually it's very, and I find looking around, it's rarer and rarer. I mean, I know it goes through waves perhaps, or it depends on who your role models are. It does feel like now, it feels very different. There's not that many people going, "Be whatever you want, it's okay."
But do you think that's because of stuff like the X Factor?
No, maybe. We live in an age, I suppose, with the internet as well, when people are like, "I hope you like this." We live in an age where we're conditioned to go, "I hope you like this." But
it's difficult, isn't it? Because taking this from our queer perspective, we also live in an age whereby pop stars and supermodels can just be out from the very beginning, and actors can talk about their boyfriends and girlfriends, and the world has moved on considerably. So for all that, and I agree, pop music seems rather homogenised and whatnot these days. There are things on the other side of the spectrum socially that are pulled forward.
Of course, yeah,
and
definitely.
yes, where do we get the next David Bowie from? Who knows? We've got him. Do we need another him? No. So where do we go now?
What's the next thing?
How do people push boundaries now? What are the next things to deal with? Is it gender inequality? Is it, this incredible conversation over the trans issues now? We're pushing forward all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, it's interesting that, people always go, sort of look backwards and when are we going to get another Freddie Mercury, when are we going to get now another...
And probably never, because it's going to be something different, because it needs to be something different.
But they're still with us, and they will remain with us, always. So I don't know is the answer to, where's the next extraordinary, person. Well, David Bowie arguably wasn't from here in the first place. He's gone home.
How true, just a visiting starman.
So did you... was music quite important to you when you were, so you sort of briefly discussed sort of like moving to Manchester and coming out and being on that scene. Was music something that was very important to you in finding yourself as sort of a woman who identified as queer and,
Yeah.
How did that...
In a word, yes. Music was absolutely formative to me. Regards sort of music against homosexuality, in particular clubbing, it wasn't always, actually, that's a bit of an overgeneralisation, but often, you still had to make a decision. If you were really into your music, as I was, and really into electronic music and clubbing and whatnot, I sometimes had to make a decision. Am I going to go gay clubbing today?
Yeah.
Or am I going to go where the music is,
that boom boom music.
The best in the world, yes, as Susie Ruffle calls it. They call it techno, Susie
I
Ruffle,
will
but you
go
can
out
call
with
it
Joe. I don't mind some of it, but she does love that boom boom music.
I don't mind some of it, but
I don't mind some of it. Do you know what? I mean, all I'm saying
is,
I love to have a chorus. Isn't it nice to have a chorus where we can all join in? You can't join in with the boom boom music.
But gay clubbing has also historically had really good music policies and really good DJs. And always been really forward thinking, all the way from Paradise Garage in New York, right? And at that time in Manchester, it was right at house music was having really great times, really big resurgence. It was after acid house and all that kind of stuff. So yes, wonderfully. Had I landed in Hull, although there was a decent pub in Hull, a bad example, just a little town in the middle of nowhere.
Sleepy village.
Yeah, or just a lesser city really than Manchester, because the queer culture in Manchester is so vibrant and so strong and so out and so unashamed. There's all kinds of freaks and weirdos in Manchester. There's everything from football boys to the Asian kids who pimp their cars to the two-tone stack-heeled, office towny girls. There's everything in Manchester. But you know what? It's never been very cool to queer bash in Manchester.
Right.
Because the gays have always been everywhere.
We've spoken about this before on the podcast, about not feeling like we fit into sort of Soho gay, or the fact that Soho can feel very...
Intimidating.
I
still feel that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, that's so funny you say that, because I almost feel there's a shame surrounding that. Like, I want what we were saying about on previous episodes about community, and actually Soho sort of says, we're the centre of the gay community. It's not just like a series of bars, which are less and less queer-centric anyway.
And often full of girls on their hendies.
This is really difficult, because I think we're in this sort of real sort of stage of flux regards sort of queer communities in general, and Manchester's a really excellent example of this, because when I first got there, Canal Street was an absolute hub, and it was where any gay boy or girl or trans or anyone who was an other could go, be safe, have a great time, just all positivity, all
all
fun.
positivity, which is...
You could be whatever you wanted to be.
Yeah.
But what happened is, because the gay village was all welcoming, we welcomed everybody. Now, over a period of time, that meant that, more straight people started to come down to the gay village, and parties of people, because they were always made welcome, because they always had a good time. The girls didn't get bothered. There wasn't really much fighting or any of that silly behaviour, because those idiot boys stayed away, because they couldn't be seen down Canal Street. That wasn't okay. But then over time, what happened is it became more and more diluted, and that sort of queer-centric culture then was eventually lost. But it was lost, of course, because society was moving forward, and we could go out in more places and be ourselves than we could before. For example, now in Manchester, you have the Northern Quarter, which is the other side of the city centre, and you can be whatever you want to be in there as well. So that's, I don't like to use the word ghetto, but it's sort of the most encompassing phrase for it. We used to need ghettos, places where we could go and be safe and go out and kiss on the street. And I don't think people do want them so much anymore.
Yes, I mean, I suppose it's that sort of belonging thing, which I suppose, you know, it feels so powerful, doesn't it, when you feel like you belong to something that isn't something that you've grown up with, you know, potentially in your family. It's something that you connect to through music or through...
we've mentioned before, so that moment when the first time that you sort of go into a gay club and you go, oh my God.
What a feeling, it was amazing. I still remember that. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So
naughty.
So naughty, I mean, but I suppose it's that thing.
Oh my God, I hope my mum doesn't find out.
Yeah. Oh my God. But it's, do we, whether we need it or not, I suppose, but I don't know, but I think
I think we do. I think gay clubs will always maintain, gay nights will always maintain, and so they should, and safe spaces for trans people who are just starting to experiment and come out, where they can go and be who they want to be. And places where bisexuals can, you know, if anybody who's asking a question about themselves can go into that sort of more concentrated, I suppose, environment and be completely safe. I have to say, from my point of view, at this stage, but I would say that because I spent loads and loads of totally fun years razzing around the scene in Manchester and then London, having all the fun in the world. But these days, I like that I can openly kiss my wife whilst listening to some of the best techno in the world in a club full of all sorts of people who don't bat an eyelid.
Exactly, and I think we are moving towards that. But then I think on the flip side, occasionally, like Tony and I, my partner and I have been out, and we are both girly-ish, you know, and we've sort of, well, no, she's very girly, I'm quite girly, and we've kissed, and all of a sudden it's been a situation where, like, we can't get rid of a guy.
Oh, yes.
Which is just this, you know, and, you know, I don't know whether...
How do you handle it?
I don't know. I know that Joe and I, we've spoken about it.
When you say you can't get rid of the guy, do you mean me?
Yeah, you.